My name is Sam Johnson. Memories from childhood can be cruel, and they seem to hold on to the most vivid moments. My earliest memory is of my dad lying in a hospital bed with a white sheet covering his face, and my mom sobbing uncontrollably by his side. In other words, sadly, I have no memories of my dad when he was alive and moving. After my dad passed away, my mom raised me on her own. Her days became busier and more hectic as she worked tirelessly day and night. Around that time, I began to understand that our household was not well off, but rather struggling financially. I spent my days waiting at home for my mom, and by the time I could speak, I was spending most of my day at daycare. The memory that stands out the most from my daycare is watching my friends leave in groups as their parents came to pick them up. Afterward, I would stay behind, playing alone with the popular toys that had been left behind, waiting for my mom, while the teachers, with tired expressions, changed from their aprons into their regular clothes. When the sun had fully set, my mom would finally come to pick me up, apologizing to the teachers. Even after we got home, she would quickly prepare my dinner and then head out again. When I woke up in the morning, she was still asleep next to me in the same clothes she had left in the night before. As soon as she woke up, she would rush to get ready, put me on the back of her bike, and take me to daycare. During those days, I convinced myself that my mom was suffering because of me. If I weren't here, maybe mom wouldn't have to work herself to the bone every day. That's what I thought, even as a little kid. But with my young mind, I couldn't figure out what I could do or even how to disappear. I lived through those dark days, feeling trapped. Then one day, while reading a dinosaur picture book at daycare, I asked my teacher a question that changed my world.
Ms. Monica, why did the dinosaurs go extinct?
Well, I think it was because a meteor crashed into the Earth and wiped them out. Or maybe they couldn't survive the Ice Age when it got really cold.
But aren't lizards kind of like the descendants of dinosaurs? If they went extinct, how do they have descendants?
Ms. Monica frowned, looking puzzled by my question.
Well, sorry, Sam. I don't really know much about dinosaurs.
Oh, so even teachers have things they don't know?
At that moment, I realized something new. Even adults have things they don't know. Up until that point, I thought adults knew everything and were perfect beings. But I came to understand that knowledge varies from person to person, whether they're adults or kids. In other words, if I could figure out a way to help my mom, maybe I could be useful to her. Maybe I could spend more time with her. Looking back now, it's obvious that no matter how much a preschooler studies, they can't actually do much. But my desire to help my mom and my strong, albeit childlike, determination became my source of hope. From then on, I made it my mission to absorb animals, math, space, trivia, and anything that came into my sight or ear as information. By the time I became an elementary school student and real studying began, I was consistently scoring perfect marks on my tests. I had developed a habit of studying from an early age. Remembering and understanding things became something of a strength of mine. From the moment I got my hands on a textbook, I would read and review its content over and over. My hunger for knowledge drove me to do so naturally. By the time I was in the middle grades of elementary school, I finally understood why my mom worked so hard. It was to support our daily life. At the same time, I realized that you can't earn money unless you're an adult. When I first understood this, I felt hopeless. But I resolved to prepare myself for the future and spent my days poring over an English dictionary and a career guidebook. The determination I had formed as a child grew sharper and stronger. And by the time I graduated elementary school, my knowledge had grown to rival that of the teachers at school. I knew that my mom regretted not being able to send me to a private school. So I decided that I would become a respectable adult so that my mom wouldn't have to suffer anymore. I researched everything I could and threw myself into my studies. Because of this, I paid no attention to extracurricular activities or playing with my friends, and before I knew it, I was isolated at school. Of course, I felt lonely, and I envied my classmates as they laughed and chatted in groups. But I drowned out those feelings by studying even harder. By the time I was in the 8th grade, I decided to become a network engineer, a career where income increases based on skill. I started learning programming and information processing alongside my regular schoolwork. I asked my mom if I could take a challenging certification exam for network specialists, and I passed it. Since the average age of people who pass the exam is in their mid-30s, I was featured in the local newspaper as a rare middle school student to achieve it. My knowledge of networking deepened, and I decided not to go to university and instead pursue a job. After graduating from high school, I was hired at an IT company that didn't require a formal academic background. By September of that year, I was officially a working adult. Once I started earning money and contributing to the household, I asked my mom to quit her night job. For the first time, I was able to sit down and enjoy dinner with her. It was a moment when one of my childhood dreams came true. Since I was only 18, even with my qualifications, I was initially assigned mainly to errands while attending business etiquette training. But on the first day after training ended, I was entrusted with actual IT work, and the adults around me were amazed by my skills. Soon, I was assigned more and more responsibilities, and no one treated me like a kid anymore. By the time I turned 20, I aimed even higher and began pursuing an advanced certification in network engineering. At 21, I took on the globally recognized Cisco certification exam. Thanks to my continuous hard work and studies, I passed the notoriously difficult CCAR exam. However, I didn't plan to leave the company that had nurtured me just because I passed. At the very least, I wanted to achieve significant results at work before moving forward in my career. But one day, an unexpected event changed those plans. When I arrived at the office as usual, my manager greeted me with a big smile. "Good morning. Is something up?" The manager handed me a piece of paper with excitement.
"Sam, this is amazing. It's a transfer request to headquarters. You're 21, probably the youngest to be sent there."
The paper in the manager's hand was an official letter from the headquarters. The company I worked for was a subsidiary of a major IT corporation. Apparently, it was rare for employees of a subsidiary to be called to the headquarters, and my manager was proud of me. Headquarters. But I wanted to stay here. I tried to show that I wasn't interested in transferring and wanted to focus on what I needed to do at this company. But for the first time, my manager raised his voice at me.
"Sam, I appreciate how you feel, but your talents shouldn't be wasted at a small company like this. A transfer to headquarters at 21 is a huge career opportunity. The salary is on a whole different level. Don't worry about us. You need to go. That's an order."
Since I joined the company at 18, my manager had always been kind, teaching me the rules of the professional world. It was the first time I saw him so worked up, shaking with intensity. While I stood there speechless, he took a deep breath, smiled warmly, and spoke again.
"Go. Achieve your admirable goal of giving your mom a better life."
I realized how much my manager cared about me, and my eyes welled up with tears. He patted me on the back and looked around at my smiling coworkers.
"All right, today, we're throwing a farewell party for Sam. No overtime tonight."
He laughed heartily as he said that. Everyone around me cheered and congratulated me. That day, I enjoyed a feast of steak and drank to my heart's content, celebrating with my team. A few weeks later, I packed my belongings and left the company that had taken care of me. Then I dropped off my things at home and headed straight to headquarters. Even though my work at headquarters hadn't officially started yet, I had a reason to be there today to meet with the CEO, who had personally requested my transfer and discuss the details of my role before starting. As I headed to the building, I memorized the commute route I'd be taking from now on. Okay, I turn right here, and wait, no way. Is this it? In front of me stood a massive, gleaming white building, both wide and tall. The exterior's way too fancy. How much did they spend on these? I muttered to myself as I double-checked the map repeatedly, but this was definitely the headquarters. I looked up at the towering building and, feeling out of place, walked into the entrance, glancing nervously around. Despite my awkward behavior, the receptionist at the large marble desk smiled kindly at me.
Hello. How can I help you today?
Well, I'm Sam Johnson. I have a meeting with the CEO, Mark Murphy, at 1 p.m. today. When I said that, the receptionist efficiently began making a call. While I stared blankly at her, I heard footsteps approaching, and an older man with neatly combed gray hair and a stylish suit spoke to me.
Oh, you must be Sam. I was planning to meet you at the entrance, but I was a bit late.
The receptionist, startled, quickly stood up.
Mark, I was just about to.
It seemed this man was the CEO, the leader of this massive organization.
Oh, don't worry about it. I should have informed you in advance.
Mark smiled kindly, exuding an air of sophistication, and in that moment, I found myself admiring him.
So, Sam, would you like to have our discussion first, or shall we start with a tour of my office?
He spread his arms as he spoke. After a moment's hesitation, I decided that I should prioritize the conversation to make the most of his time. Just as I was about to speak, someone interrupted.
Sir, I apologize for interrupting, but the Executive Vice President would like to discuss the new projects with you.
The receptionist said that with a flustered expression, so I quietly closed my mouth. Mark picked up the phone and spoke about something work-related with the person on the other end.
Sam, I'm really sorry. There seems to be an issue I need to take care of. Would you mind heading to my office and waiting for me? It's at the very end of the 12th floor. My assistant is there, and help yourself to a drink.
He led me to the elevator as he spoke. He's the CEO of such a large company. It's obvious he'd be extremely busy. I watched him walk briskly away to handle the issue, and I got in the elevator and rode it up to the 12th floor as instructed. I walked down the long, straight hallway. On the way, I passed by a beautiful office space and saw employees hard at work. The sight of it made my heart race as I thought, I'll be working here soon too. As I slowly walked past the office, glancing inside, I felt a tap on my shoulder. Yes. I turned around to see a man who looked to be in his mid-30s, holding a large stack of documents.
Who are you? A new hire? Haven't seen you before. Are you from another department? Whatever. Take this to the second meeting room.
With that, he shoved the files and papers into my arms. Oh, the second meeting room. Where is that exactly? I asked, confused. The man sighed heavily, clearly annoyed, and scowled.
Oh, useless. Fine, just carry it. It's heavy.
Not knowing what else to do, I took the files he handed me. I caught a glimpse of his name tag, which read Michael Kent, Section Chief. Even though he was a section chief, it was the first time I'd ever been treated so rudely by someone right after meeting them. I was bewildered. Michael turned and began walking away, but looked back at me.
What are you standing there for? Follow me.
I felt a bit irritated by his commanding tone towards someone he'd just met, but I couldn't just drop the documents and walk away. so I decided to follow him, thinking it wouldn't take long. The second meeting room was on the 8th floor, meaning we had to go down from the 12th. By the time we reached the room, the weight of the documents and the long walk had drained me.
Okay, just set them down over there. Thanks.
Michael gave me instructions with a nonchalant expression.
Well, it's good you got to help me out as a newbie. If anyone asks where you were, just say you were helping Section Chief Michael.
I wondered if being a section chief gave him that much authority in this company. His arrogance made me more curious about the company's culture than angry at him. We left the meeting room together. Well, I'll be heading back now. I started walking toward the elevator, but Michael stepped in front of me to block my way.
Wait, what was that just now?
I was confused by his sharp glare. What do you mean?
That I'll be heading back now, your tone. You're supposed to say, "Thank you for your guidance, sir." Are you mocking me?
I didn't feel like I owed someone with such a rude attitude any respectful words, but I decided not to stir up trouble. I apologize. Thank you for your guidance. When I apologized, Michael's mood seemed to improve, and he gave me a smirking grin.
Yeah, just keep that in mind. Newbies just follow my lead.
I had plenty of things I wanted to say in response, but I had somewhere I needed to be. So I bit my tongue and stayed quiet to get out of this situation as quickly as possible. Seeing my reaction, Michael smirked again.
Hey, newbie, follow me to my desk. There's still more stuff you need to carry.
Well, that's a problem. I actually have an appointment today. Just as I was about to explain what I had planned, Michael leaned in close, furrowing his brows.
You're getting cocky for a newbie, huh? Whatever lame appointment you have, someone else can handle it. My work comes first. Like I told you earlier, if anyone asks, just say you were helping Section Chief Michael.
He glared at me as he waved his hand dismissively, signaling for me to follow him, and walked away. We arrived back at the 12th floor. While I glanced at the CEO's office in the distance, Michael led me into his section's office.
Here, take this to the second meeting room.
As soon as he reached his desk, he pointed at a stack of boxes and told me to carry them. Michael plopped down in his chair, making it clear he wasn't planning to move. Seeing no other option, I decided to finish the task quickly and began hauling the boxes. By the time I made 2 trips, sweating all the way, I had finally moved everything. It's all done.
Good job. You can go now.
Michael dismissed me without even glancing in my direction. No thanks after forcing me to help him. I was furious but clenched my teeth, gave a polite nod, and turned my back to his desk. Just as I was about to leave, Michael called out to me again.
Hey, by the way, what department are you from? You're not even wearing a badge. Why is a rookie like you wandering around the 12th floor?
Oh, actually, I'm here because... I started explaining, but Michael suddenly burst out laughing.
I knew it. You came to take a look, right? The 12th floor is where the elites work. I get it. 22-year-olds like you are still just kids. I bet you were curious.
I tilted my head at his assumption. Oh, actually, I'm only 21.
So, you're still a college student?
No, I didn't even go to university. Michael's eyes widened in shock as I said that.
Wait, so you're a high school grad?
I nodded. Yes, that's right. My name is Sam Johnson, and I've been assigned to transfer to headquarters. I look forward to working with you, Section Chief Michael. When I said that, Michael beckoned me closer with his hand. I stepped toward his desk. Michael grabbed a black coffee mug from his desk, stood up, and raised it over my head.
Don't get cocky, kid.
Warm liquid poured over me, and the rich aroma of coffee filled the air. The initial warmth quickly turned cold as the coffee soaked into my clothes. It seemed I had just had coffee poured over my head. What the heck? Michael grinned in front of me. What do you think you're doing? When I asked him that, Michael put his mug on the desk and glared at me in confusion.
Listen up. Maybe some incompetent fools work at subsidiaries and branch offices, but only graduates from prestigious universities get to work at headquarters. And you? A high school dropout? 21 years old? Don't mess with me. Go home right now and have your mommy wash that suit. Or maybe it'd be faster if your daddy just bought you a new one. Oh man, I'm sorry. Just kidding.
Michael's loud laughter echoed throughout the office. The other employees averted their eyes, pretending not to notice what was happening. I clenched my fists tightly as I watched him laugh, trying to hold back my boiling anger. And then,
Excuse me. What are you doing?
a woman's voice called out, and the sound of hurried footsteps followed. I turned around and saw a beautiful woman standing there.
Oh, if it isn't Olivia. I'm just conducting a special training session. I was educating this new hire who doesn't even meet our entry requirements.
Michael's demeanor completely changed as he smiled proudly and explained himself to the CEO's secretary.
Training? A new hire? Him?
Olivia looked back and forth between Michael and me, covered in coffee. It seemed she had so many questions running through her mind that she was overwhelmed.
This is completely unacceptable, Michael.
She raised her voice so loudly that it echoed across the 12th floor.
What?
Michael looked startled. Olivia pulled out a pristine white handkerchief and began wiping my face and suit. The once white handkerchief quickly turned brown as it soaked up the coffee stains. Oh no, it's fine. Please, you don't have to. I tried to decline, feeling bad.
How am I supposed to explain this to the CEO? I'm so sorry.
She whispered apologetically, but didn't stop wiping.
With all due respect, you're the CEO's secretary. Why are you doing this for him? He's just a new hire, a high school grad. You really don't need to.
Michael was still grinning as he spoke, but the secretary turned and glared at him.
You even realize who this person is?
Just as she began to speak, a familiar deep voice interrupted from behind.
Hey, what's going on over here? Oh, Sam, you're here too. What's this? Looks like you got a tour of the office ahead of schedule, huh? That's great. So, what do you think of it, Sam?
Mark walked into the office with a cheerful smile, but his expression hardened halfway through as he took in the scene. The employees in the office immediately stood up, greeting Mark with puzzled looks. When Mark reached me and saw the coffee-stained mess, he furrowed his brows and exhaled sharply. Michael, however, failed to pick up on the shift in the CEO's demeanor.
Mark, I was just training him. This high school grad somehow made his way into our company, so I was giving him a little guidance.
Michael puffed out his chest with pride as he spoke. The CEO's shoulders trembled, and his face turned red with anger.
Michael, you.
Yes, I'm impressive, aren't I?
Michael gave a confident grin, but Mark unleashed a furious roar unlike anything I'd ever heard.
What have you done?
What?
I asked what you think you've done. You disgrace.
Mark's voice was so loud it felt like my eardrums might burst. Michael began trembling all over.
He's someone who earned an extremely difficult network engineer certification at a young age and passed one of the world's most prestigious technical exams. I personally invited him to headquarters, and you call him useless? Are you implying I'm incompetent for choosing him?
Michael's face went pale as he shook uncontrollably.
I didn't know.
Didn't know? That's your excuse? He's going to be entrusted with work on a global scale. And you, a mere section chief, dared to pull something like this.
Michael stared blankly, unable to process Mark's words. Then, as if coming to his senses, he lowered his gaze.
Well,
He seemed to be scrambling to come up with an excuse. Mark looked around the room and sighed deeply.
Enough. We'll continue this in my office. Everyone else, get back to work.
With that, he placed a hand on my back and started walking toward his office. Michael followed behind with his shoulders slumped, and the secretary walked behind him as if making sure he wouldn't run away. When we arrived, Mark opened the heavy office door, revealing 2 large black leather sofas. Mark turned to me and smiled warmly.
Take a seat, Sam.
He gestured toward the sofa. No, I'm sorry. As you can see, I'm a mess. I don't want to dirty the furniture, so I'll just stand. When I hesitated, Mark shot Michael a glare.
geez.
Michael shivered in fear.
Don't worry about it, Sam. Sit down. Oh, and get Sam a fresh suit.
The secretary nodded and left the office. Now it was just the CEO, Michael, and me. A tense silence filled the room until Mark finally spoke.
So, how did this happen?
Michael kept trembling, staring at the floor in silence. I realized that nothing would progress unless I explained, so I took a deep breath. On my way to the CEO's office, Michael stopped me and asked me to help him move some things.
I see. Helping out is fine and all, but you had an appointment with me today, right? Why didn't you tell him that?
Mark's sharp gaze locked onto mine. I tried to explain, but Michael said, "Just tell them you were helping with my work," and walked off toward the second meeting room. I was holding the documents, so I had no choice but to follow him. When I said that, Mark furrowed his brows.
So, you forced someone who could have been an important guest to help you without giving them a choice. Is that right, Michael?
Michael flinched in shock.
Yes, sir.
Mark glared at Michael, his anger apparent. After that, I ended up helping him move the boxes, and then he started asking about my academic background. And this is how things ended up. I spread my arms to show my coffee-stained suit. Mark trembled with rage, while Michael quivered for an entirely different reason. Just then, the secretary returned to the CEO's office.
Sam, I brought you a change of suit and shirt. Here you go.
The secretary led me to the restroom, where I changed into the fresh clothes. The crisp, brand new suit was apparently from a well-known designer brand. It fit me perfectly, almost unbelievably so. After changing, I returned to the CEO's office. Oh, Mark, this suit must have been expensive. How should I pay for it? Mark smiled and shook his head.
No need. Consider it an apology from me. Besides, you're about to become one of our specialists.
A specialist.
Yes, as one of our technical leads.
I wasn't entirely sure what that meant, but it seemed that working at headquarters would come with a significant amount of responsibility. Michael, who had been listening to our conversation, widened his eyes in disbelief.
A technical lead? You mean this kid?
I felt irritated at being called a kid again, but Mark seemed to sense it.
A kid? How dare you call someone who will be your superior a kid?
Mark's glare intimidated Michael. Sweat began to pour down his face, and his eyes darted nervously. Then he sat down on the floor as if he were sliding off the couch.
Sam, sorry.
Michael apologized fervently. I couldn't help but sigh as I looked at him. Then, finally letting out all the frustration that had built up, I stood tall and spoke my mind. Michael, what you did to me doesn't matter anymore. But if you're a professional, you should say, I apologize, not just sorry. When I said that, Mark burst into laughter. Michael's face reddened as he clenched his teeth. Being lectured on business etiquette by someone he had mocked was clearly humiliating. Still, he kept his head down, not daring to look up.
Oh, that was a good laugh. And Sam's right. After this incident, I'm curious about how you've been conducting yourself, Michael. Starting tomorrow, you'll be suspended. During that time, we'll conduct an internal investigation.
What? Well,
Michael's face turned pale, and sweat trickled down his forehead as if he was terrified that something incriminating might be uncovered.
That's all I have to say to you. Now, get out.
When Mark said that, the secretary grabbed Michael's arm. He looked like the life had been drained from him and escorted him out. The brief glimpse of Michael's face showed complete despair. After watching him leave, Mark turned to me with a warm smile.
I am sorry about everything. If you're willing to forgive me, how about an annual salary of $150,000 to start?
$150,000? I couldn't hide my shock at the amount, which far exceeded my expectations.
Yes, for someone as talented as you, that's only fair. Or is it too little?
Mark asked with a gentle smile. I shook my head vigorously. Not at all. I'll do my best to meet your expectations. I'm honored to be here. And with that, my transfer to headquarters was officially confirmed. A few weeks later, after I'd settled into my new position, reports from the internal investigation began pouring in about Michael's behavior. It turned out that he had been issuing unreasonable orders and yelling at employees daily, hurling verbal abuse at them, and even enjoying watching them submit to him. There were also reports of inappropriate conduct toward female employees. On top of that, he had been taking credit for other people's work and presenting it as his own. With all this evidence, Michael was terminated. One day, during a break, I stood by the window, sipping coffee and gazing outside. Among the bustling employees near the entrance, I noticed Michael standing frozen, holding a cardboard box with a blank, hollow expression. I looked at him for a moment, then quietly drank the rest of my coffee and returned to my desk. Time passed as I worked diligently at headquarters, and before I knew it, 7 years had gone by. I was now 28 years old, an adult in every sense of the word. My responsibilities at headquarters had grown significantly, and I was now assisting the Chief Technology Officer. As my tasks increased, so did my salary. I used my savings to buy my mom a condominium so she wouldn't have to work so hard anymore. When I gave it to her, feeling like I'd finally reached my goal, she smiled and said,
Thank you so much. But from now on, I want you to work for yourself, not just for me.
Her words gave me the strength to keep moving forward. I took them to heart and worked hard every day. One of my primary duties was to communicate with our overseas partners and clients, so I frequently traveled both domestically and internationally for work. Though life was hectic, I didn't dislike the busy pace. After all, the boy once called a genius who couldn't form meaningful connections now had people gathering around him because of his hard work. Whenever something came up, my team would come to me for advice and support. I found I had a soft spot for being relied upon, and I often spent so much time mentoring my team that my own tasks would pile up. Still, being needed by others felt like a small way to make up for the loneliness I'd experienced in the past. My life was busy, but I was surrounded by my supportive boss, colleagues, and team members, and I was genuinely happy. I owed everything to my mom, who raised me, and to the manager who had accepted me at 18. I promised myself I'd never forget my gratitude toward them. Oh yeah, I wonder how Thompson is doing. The thought of my old manager crossed my mind, and I muttered to myself, "That's it. I'll give him a call." I pulled out my phone and dialed his number.
Sam, it's been a while. How have you been? I've heard you're making waves at headquarters.
As soon as he picked up, I was greeted by his familiar, energetic voice. "Hi, it's been too long. Thanks to you, I've been working at headquarters for 7 years now. I just wanted to reach out and thank you for everything you've done for me." Just as I continued speaking,
Oh, hang on a second. Hey, Michael, slacking off again. Finish this first.
the manager's angry voice came through the phone.
Sorry.
Not just sorry, it's I apologize. Haven't I told you to get your wording right?
Hearing that familiar phrase and conversation made me chuckle.
Sorry about that, Sam. We've had a bit of a problem person join the team lately. It's been chaotic.
I see. Well, let's grab a drink sometime soon. My treat. When I said that, the manager burst out laughing.
So this is what they call success. I'll look forward to it. Keep up the great work.
He hung up. But I could easily imagine him smiling warmly on the other end. As I smiled to myself, one of my supervisors walked by and spoke curiously.
Sam, hate to interrupt your good mood, but do you think you'll have the new project documents ready today?
Realizing I'd been caught off guard, I straightened up. "Oh, I've already finished them. They're on your desk."
Already? That's impressive, Sam.
It was no big deal. As my supervisor praised me, I smiled with a mix of pride and slight embarrassment. A memory from long ago surfaced in my mind.
You folded the laundry for me? That's amazing, Sam. You're such a dependable boy.
I remembered my mom's face as she beamed at the awkwardly folded clothes I had tried my best to organize.
This was nothing. I know everything.
Sam, you're such a smart boy. Having you around makes me so happy.
That memory I had forgotten while rushing through life and working hard came back to me. Back then, my mom had told me she was happy. No matter how exhausted she was, she told me she felt joy. My mom worked hard to make me happy, and I've worked hard to make her happy in return. In the end, my efforts made both of us happy. That's why from now on, I want to work hard for the people around me for the world. My old determination had taken on a new form. With that thought, I turned back to my work with renewed purpose.